now living under some form of lockdown. And while home may be the safest place to be, it's not the case for everyone. Across the globe, women and children who suffer from domestic violence have no escape from their abusers during quarantine. Activists are already reporting.
Tiga pelajar pusat
berdasarkan rakaman kamera yang terjadian CCTV di sebelah kawasan termasuk
Assalamualaikum and a very good evening, IB2 doctors and friends. I am HANA ABRAR BINTI KHALID, metric number 2012688. On behalf of my team members, would like to welcome our respected assessors, Prof NAZNIN and Prof SALAM, our supervisor, Dr. ASSRIN, and all dear friends to Verendus 12 seminar entitled Domestic Violence in Malaysia. So without further ado, let's get started. So what you can see on your screen now is some of the common perceptions that people have on domestic violence. So some people say that domestic violence is a private, personal matter and the violence cycle can easily stop. Some even said that if it is so bad, the victims would leave. Domestic violence doesn't happen in my community and the victims are provocative and deserve to be hit. So first thing first, we need to understand that domestic violence is not as simple as just living, and no one deserves to experience such violence. So inshallah today, we will uncover the truth of domestic violence, and hopefully at the end of our seminar today, we will have a better picture of what is exactly happening in our society when we say domestic violence. Okay, next slide. So these are the contents of our seminar today. Firstly, I will introduce to you the definition of domestic violence, and we will look at the statistics of reported cases in Malaysia. And then Sister ANISHA will continue with the types and examples of domestic violence. After that, we will look at the causes followed by the effects of domestic violence, which will be presented by Sister HUSNA and Brother SHEIKH. And Brother MANAF will continue with the solutions and ways to prevent domestic violence. And then we will look at what Islam has said about domestic violence. Okay, next slide. So first of all, what is domestic violence? So domestic violence, or also called domestic abuse or intimate partner violence, is a deliberate behavior which includes any behavior that frighten, intimidate, terrorize, manipulate, hurt, blame or injure an intimate partner in order for the perpetrator to gain or maintain power and control. So common misconception that people have is that domestic violence is just an anger management issue and the perpetrators just lost their control. So this is actually not true. Domestic violence is actually the opposite of losing control, in which the perpetrators know what they are doing and they use their abusive tactics to maintain dominance in the relationship. Okay, next slide please.
Can I have some money because I need to get some groceries?
What? You want money again? How many times do I have to give you? What happened to the money I gave you last week?
It's just not enough, I think.
What? Are you out of your mind? You're really an eyesore.
But
You get nothing from me.
no, please. No.
Shut up.
No.
You're the one asking for this. Huh? Stubborn? Huh? Serves you right. Now take this money and go away.
So are you guys surprised? That was kind of disturbing, right? So basically, that is just one example of domestic violence cases that might occur in our community. So thank you to Brother Manaf for the gimmick. So actually, what we want to highlight from the gimmick just now is that the violence is committed by someone in the victim's domestic circle. It can be spouses, immediate family members, or any other household member. And it can occur to anyone, regardless of age, socioeconomic background, education levels, religion, ethnicity, or gender. So we often heard that domestic violence is about a husband abusing his wife, but it may also occur the other way around, and it can occur within a range of relationships, including couples who are married, living together, or dating. Okay, next slide. So what makes it so difficult for the victim to get away from the violence is that it happens in cycles. So the mix of both violence and love makes the victims feel trapped and confused. So usually it started when the tensions build. So the perpetrator often lash out due to several factors that we will see later. And then the tension will intensify over time, causing them to feel powerless. And then the incidents of violence occur. So the perpetrators will release their tension on their intimate partner to regain their power. So always keep in mind that being an abuser, being a perpetrator is always a choice. Any tension that the person experiences may help to explain the abuse, but it is never an excuse. So after the incidents of abuse, the tension will slow down, and here begins the reconciliation phase. So the perpetrator often use kindness, gifts, loving gestures to make the victim feel like in a honeymoon phase. So the victim starts to believe that they have their real relationship back. And then the calm phase takes place. So the abusive partner might apologize but put the blame on others. And they might say something like, I didn't mean it. I won't do it again. You made me do it. It wasn't me. It's just the drugs, etc. So the victims might begin to accept the excuse, and they start to think that maybe it was really nothing much. So this cycle happens over and over, and as time goes on, the calm period may become very short or even entirely disappear from the cycle. But that is still not easy for the victims to leave, mostly because they had spent a great time together. So the victims are still hoping things to get better. And in many cases, the perpetrator threatens the victim not to tell anyone, even their closest friends and family. And if there are children in the picture, the perpetrator may even use them as a threat. So this makes the victims feel very helpless. Okay, next slide. So in Malaysia, the reported cases by Royal Police Malaysia (PDRM), we can see that it fluctuates from 2001 until 2009. So the cases decrease and then increase, but then slightly decrease again. But it is still within 3,000 cases, which is still a large number. So starting from 2010 until 2016, the cases keep showing increasing trend, but then drop a bit in 2017 and 2018. And unfortunately, in 2020, as we know, the government has implemented MCO, so many victims were trapped in their house with the perpetrators. So this leads to an increasing number of reported cases. So the PDRM alone has reported 5,260 cases, and the Ministry of Women, Family and Community Development reported there were 2,540 reports made through their hotline, known as Talian Kasih. So this year alone, there are already 902 cases reported from only January to April. So bear in mind that these are the number of reported cases. There might be many other cases out there that are yet to be reported because this topic is somehow still a taboo in our society. So even if we don't see it's happening, it can happen in any community. So I think that would be all for my introduction. I pass to Sister Anisha to continue with the types and examples of domestic violence.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you, Sister Hana, for a wonderful overview regarding our topic for today's seminar. Nur Amirah Anisha binti Hamizi, metric number 2013456. So I will continue on today's seminar with the next topic, which is types and examples of domestic violence. So next slide, please. So these are the types of domestic violence that we will discuss further later. The first one, physical abuse. Second one, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, and financial abuse. Okay, next, let us look at the examples for each types of domestic violence that we have mentioned just now. So the first one, physical abuse. Domestic physical abuse is any intentional act causing injury or trauma to the partner by way of bodily contact. So the first example of domestic physical abuse is injuring a partner. A person can be accused of committing physical abuse when they try to injure their partner by action of hitting, kicking, drowning, or threatening them with a weapon. Like what we see in the video teaser just now, during an argument between a husband and a wife, the husband tends to release his anger by hitting and threatening his wife, where it shouldn't have happened in a relationship. Other than that, the abuser may also withhold their partner's physical needs, such as withholding help, specifically medical help, when their partner is unwell or in pain. Plus, withholding sleep and meals of the partner is also one of the ways for the abuser to engage in physical abuse on a victim. Next, the second type of domestic violence is sexual abuse. Domestic sexual abuse is defined as abusive sexual behavior by one person upon his or her partner, which in the form of coercion. Marital rape, for example, is the action of someone taking advantage on their partner by forcing them to have a sex when they actually do not want it. This action often causes pain to the partner, especially women, during sexual intercourse, as they will not be able to produce adequate lubricants. This is due to involuntary sexual needs. Besides that, sexual abuse also includes insistence on risky sexual practices towards partner, such as unprotected intercourse without male or female condom use, when the abuser is already diagnosed with sexual transmitted diseases (STD). This unsafe sexual practice puts their partner at risk of getting sexually transmitted infections such as human immunodeficiency virus infection, herpes simplex virus infection, and etc. Okay, next slide, please. Next, emotional abuse. Domestic emotional abuse is any behavior that exploits partner's vulnerability, insecurity, and character. For example, someone with an emotionally abusive relationship may encounter this kind of situation when their partner constantly makes them feel insecure, like they are not good enough. Other than that, the partner may also threaten to leave them unless they do what their partner says. Emotional abuse can severely impact our mental health. Next example is gaslighting. Do you know what exactly is gaslighting? Basically, gaslighting is another form of emotional abuse when the abuser makes statements or actions to distort a partner's reality. As a result, partners may feel as though they are crazy. The victim of gaslighting begin to question their reality and believe that they are the only source of any problems within the relationship. Emotional abuse is very common in relationships, so be careful. Lastly, financial abuse. Domestic financial abuse is when the abuser uses their influence over the economic resources in the relationship as a means to oppress their partner. For example, the abuser will not allow their partner to access their money or bank accounts, as the abuser may initially convince their partner to combine bank accounts in effort of save money together, and once combined, the abuser may change the PIN numbers to prevent their partner from accessing money in their bank. Another example of financial abuse is when the abuser may ruin their partner's credit. For example, The abuser may open a credit account under their partner's name without permission, and this credit account will be used by the abuser for their own benefits, like they buy luxury things using the credit card, but the one who actually pays for those items to the bank is their partner. This is very common in our society. Okay, next. So these are some of the examples regarding domestic violence in our country, Malaysia. The first article is about a husband who was beaten by his wife because he forgot to buy roti canai. Maybe some of you might feel her reason for beating her husband is funny, right? But this is reality. Even due to small matters, domestic violence can occur.
Sorry for the interruption. Sister Aisha is currently having a technical problem for a moment. Sorry for the interruption. The presenter is currently having a technical problem. So hope you can wait for a minute.
Sorry for the interruption. I lost my connection.
It's okay, Mira.
You guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
You can continue.
Sorry for that. Okay, the first article is about a husband who was beaten by his wife because he forgot to buy roti canai. And the reason might be funny, right? But this is reality. Even due to small matters, domestic violence can occur. On the other hand, the second article is opposite to the first article, whereby this time, the husband is the one who engaged with domestic violence by beating his wife, and this is a common situation in our country. We can see a lot more similar cases to this. Naturally, men are stronger than women, so they tend to use their strength to persecute women. So that is all for types and example of domestic violence. Next slide. Before we proceed to the next presenter, I would like to ask If anyone can answer this question regarding gaslighting, can anyone give one example of gaslighting?
May I answer this question? Okay, one example of gaslighting is like when the abuser manipulates her partner, for example, like when the abuser is actually cheating on someone, but then the partner they make the partner believe that she is actually crazy, that that the abuser is not actually cheating, that she is only, it's her own mind. She is crazy for thinking like that.
Okay, thank you, Sister Ainin, for responding to my question. So now we shall continue with the next topic that will be presented by Sister HUSNA.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is FAEZATUL binti Muhammad FAUZI with matric number 2019754. So just now we have seen Sister ANISHA explain on the types of domestic abuse, which consists of physical, emotional, financial, and also sexual abuse. So now I proceed to explain about what are the causes of domestic violence, how this domestic violence can happen. Okay, so first of all, one of the causes of domestic violence to happen is because of jealousy and envy towards their partner. As a human being, being jealous is a normal, but it is something uncommon and rare when this feeling of jealous can lead someone to cause harm to their partner. So this actually, we think that jealous is something normal, and it is something, a small matter that will not lead into any bad things to happen. But actually, when someone have trust issue, and then they do not trust each other, they overthinking about their partner, which is something that is not real and not true. They just observe, they just come into conclusion based off observation, what they heard, and they just simply make a conclusion based on that. So this actually can lead into domestic violence. So as you can see in the news here, where news from the Sinar Harian, which occurred at Al-Ustad on 29 December 2012. So this news shows that the wife is being hit by the husband until she's dead. So actually, for your guys' information, this couple are just married for about 6 months. Can you imagine just get married for about 6 months and then you are killed by someone that you trust and then someone you love? And the reason behind of this is just because of jealous. So we think that jealous is something small matter, but it actually can lead to something bad to happen if we cannot control it. So actually this misunderstanding can be solved by sitting down together and then discuss, but they take another way to cause harm to their partner because of jealousy. Okay, and then for the next cause of the domestic violence is because of the substance abuse. So such as drugs and alcohol. So people who consume drugs and alcohol are more susceptible to cause domestic violence. Why I say so? Because this substance, alcohol and drugs, can make someone become unconscious, not aware what they're doing. So this can lead into domestic violence. So that's why in Islam, we are prohibited to treat drugs and alcohol because it can lead into something undesirable thing to happen. So as you can see in this news here, where domestic violence is happening because of drugs, and in 2018, okay, the domestic violence case because of the drugs has been reported up to 48%. So this is a huge percentage where the domestic violence happened just because of the drugs. Okay, and then thirdly, cause of the domestic violence is because of the financial issue. Okay, I can relate these causes with our current situation nowadays, which is during this COVID-19 pandemic. So during this pandemic, what happened, we have MCO. So people cannot go to job, they need to work online, but there are some people who lost their job. So when they lost their job, they cannot afford to support their family, especially for a man, because he need to take care of his family, right? So during what happened is actually during this MCO, the number of domestic violence cases has been increasing, and one of the factor of it is because of the loss of job. So we can see here that when someone lost their job, he feels stressed, and then he tried to release attention to someone who is close to him. So someone he is close, especially his wife, right? So he will cause harm to his wife, and this can lead into domestic violence to happen. As you can see here in the news, in Hara Metro, reported on 30th April 2020. So I'm not focusing on this hot temper here, but maybe this word is a bit smaller, but you can see that the causes of this domestic violence is because of the loss of jobs. Okay, and then for the next factor, previous history of being abused also can lead into domestic violence to happen. So why I say so? Because when someone has experience of being abused during a child, he will do the same thing when he grows up. So this cycle of abuse is hardly to break because, for example, if the child see the father abuse his mother, and then when he grown up, he feel frustrated about what he's experienced, and then he will do the same thing as the father did to and he will do this to his wife because they feel frustrated and anger about what he experienced before. However, there are some cases where the child might be experiencing the history of abuse before. He might see the father abuse the mother, and then when she grown up, she thinks that she deserves to be abused by his husband, her husband. So this actually can allow the abuser to cause to be more aggressive and can cause into domestic violence to happen because they think that they deserve to be abused because they are used to it. So this actually can allow domestic violence to happen. Okay, other than that, low self-esteem also can cause into domestic violence. So low self-esteem means that someone who lack of confidence, they do not confidence about themselves, they feel that they are not enough, they are not perfect. So I'm trying to stress on here by everyone in this world is not perfect. We have some weakness in our life, but we do not feel so down because of this weakness. So there are some people, they try to hide their low self-esteem by degrading the other people. For example, like the abuser, they try to mask their low self-esteem by degrading their intimate partner. So when they cause harm to their intimate partner, they feel that they are more powerful, so that they can control their partner's life. So this actually can lead into domestic violence to happen. However, there are some cases, for example, especially for a woman who work as a housewife, she thinks that she is not perfect because she has low level of education. So when she get married, and then when the husband try to abuse her, she thinks that it is okay for her because she thinks that she does not deserve to be loved by anyone. So this actually can create opportunities for the abuser to be more aggressive, and the cases will be increasing. And lastly, mental illness also can cause into domestic violence. So there are few types of mental illness. we have anxiety, bipolar disorder, intermittent explosive disorder. Do you guys know what bipolar disorder means? So actually bipolar disorder means that someone who has disturbing in the emotional, like we know as the mood of episode. Sometimes she feel down, sometimes she feel anger, sometimes she feel sad. And then we also have the intermittent explosive where they cannot control their anger. So when someone have this kind of mental illness, it actually can lead into domestic violence because they cannot control their anger. As you can see in this news here from Harian Metro, I'm not focusing about the lost job here. I'm focusing on the high temper where when the father cannot control his anger, so it can cause into domestic violence to their partner. So this is a real case issue. Okay, I think that's all for the causes of domestic violence. So I open for the quiz. So what is the main cause of domestic violence cases to increase during MCO? So is there anyone can answer these questions?
May I answer this question? Okay, so the main cause of domestic violence cases to increase during MCO is because of the financial issue.
Okay, right, true. Thank you, Sister Asha. So I think that's all for my part. So I shall pass to the next presenter, Verendus, to explain on the effects of the domestic violence.
Alright, thank you to Sister FAEZATUL HUSNA. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Sheikh Muhammad IZZUDDIN bin Sheikh Abdul Munir with matrix number 2015811. So just now we had heard about the causes of the domestic violence, and for now I will explain about the effects of the domestic violence in Malaysia. Next. Okay, so as we all know, the most affected person that on domestic violence is on victims, and there are three aspects that we will cover. So the first aspect is physical aspect. As we further as a future doctor, we might see or we might meet some patient or maybe the victims itself that come with red or purple marks at the neck or maybe at other parts of the body, and also maybe have sprain or broken wrist, chronic fatigue, and also other injury in the body. So that is one of the symptom or signs that caused by domestic violence. In some cases, they also can cause death, just like Sister AMIRAH just now said. And the second aspect is mental aspect, where the victim have emotional and psychological trauma, and also he or she will suffer from mental health problems like post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, or maybe also anxiety and many more. And the last one is the financial aspect, where the victim tend to absence from work due to the injuries that he or she get from the abuser. So because of that, they lost their jobs, and some of the cases, the victims want to leave the spouse and leave the home, and they become homeless. Next. Okay, so we will look for the video about how the domestic violence affect the children. Enjoy it.
Have you been a good boy for Mummy?
Yes, Dad. How was your Rotary Club meeting today?
Fine. It's cold. It's got no taste.
I would order to come over this! Oh, shut up! The dog eats better than this! The dog eats better than this! Get up! Get up! Every time I don't understand this mess! You're useless!
Standing emergency. Standing emergency.
My mom and Dad are having a fight.
Oh, is he getting hurt?
Stop it! Send the police, please.
Okay, we're gonna be taking him Let me talk to you. Where's your mom? What's fighting on you? What's going on?
They're having a fight because this is bingo forever and ever. They always have this because he has a cousin. He's always drinking beer and getting drunk. And Mom.
What's his name? What is his name? Your father's name?
He's my stepfather.
Okay, how old is he? What's going on? Lisa? Fighting on you. What's going on?
Hey, Mommy.
How's he hurting her?
He made his money.
Okay, don't cry. We're gonna send the police.
Okay.
Okay, now where's your mother at right now?
He's in the room fighting with them. Okay, could you just send the police?
Yeah, they're on their way, but I'm gonna keep you on the line until they get there, okay? Is your front door open?
Oh, no.
Okay, you go and lock it and come back to the phone so the officers can get in.
This way.
Okay.
Okay, so are you guys again surprised? Because I actually surprised because this is the real call made by one of child who live with the domestic violence in her or his house. So I just want to ask all of you, can we just neglect those children who face this problem and just assume that it is only a normal home conflict in their house? So if you all choose to neglect them, just type yes. And if you say no, just type no in the chat box. Okay, next. Okay, so there are several effects that effects of the domestic violence on children. So the first one, it leads to anxiety and depression. As we all know, the abuser is his or her father. So imagine the most trusted person in house abuse her mother in his face in the house. So they may cause also develop the phobias and insomnia. Besides, it affects the academic achievements where the children will have low self-esteem and low motivation to study at school or maybe to study online because of this problem. And the last one, the children may use bullying behavior or become a target of bullying. So they might have two possibilities. The first one is the children will develop the bullying behavior because they follow what actually their father done to their mother. But the second one is the children who will become a target of bullying because they are very fear to communicate with others because of the memorable event of the domestic violence that occur in his life. Okay, next. Okay, so this is the last effect on family and community. So imagine again, if the children growing up without learning about positive and respectful relationship, so they tend to follow their parents' behavior. That cause the cycle of domestic violence will be repeated and endless in our community. But bear in mind that the domestic violence is not inherited, yet it is a choice whether the person want to do the domestic violence or not. But these are one of the proven ways that the domestic violence can occur. Next. Okay, so that's all from me. I have a quiz for all of you. So who want to try to answer this question? Who are actually the most affected by domestic violence?
Assalamualaikum. Can I try to answer the quiz?
Waalaikumsalam. Yes, you may.
For the most affected by the most domestic violence would be the victim and the children.
All right. Congrats to Brother Ashraf. Brother Ashraf, yeah, right. Okay, thank you, Brother Ashraf, for the answer. Yes, that's the correct answer. So next, we will discuss about how to solve this problem, and I will invite Brother Manaf to continue the presentation.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Brother Sheikh, for your previous presentation. Can you guys hear my voice? Am I audible or not?
Yes, brother, but can you loud your voice much?
I will try to louder my voice. So to continue with this presentation, okay, from what we have witnessed before, from the first presentation until this moment, we have witnessed so many terrifying scenes. We have seen so many bad things that happen in a family where happiness should be the first main core. But what can we do to prevent this type? What can we do to solve this issue? So this is something that is very important for us to know, because this type of violence, it is something that is happening everywhere around us. We don't know whether we will be the victim or even we will become the perpetrator in the future. So this is the very important part in this seminar. So the next slide. Okay, so the first thing that we can do, let's say that we are the victim. Okay, so let's say there is a woman who are being abused by her husband. So the girl, the woman will be in a very big trauma, and she will be in a state of depressed, in a state of distress. So she will become anxious. She will become like clueless. What can she do to cope that situation? So the first thing that the victim can do is that they can ask help from others. So there are many sources. There are many places that they can ask help from, such as they can ask help from the NGOs, and there are multiple NGOs in our country that wants to help the victims of domestic violence in our country, such as Rumah Teratai, Women's AIDS Organisation, and also the Social Welfare Department or the Jabatan Kebajikan Masyarakat JKM. So this is very important for everyone of us to know. So here I have listed all the hotline number that you can call if you are being abused by an abuser. So for Rumah Teratai, this is an NGO that is focused on Muslim women who are abused by her husband in a domestic violence. So the number are 01157695171. So why did I read this number? Because this is very important. I want every one of you to memorize this number, because we will never know when we will become a victim, and this is something that is very rational for us to do. The next is Women's Aid Organization or Pertubuhan Pertolongan Wanita, with the number is very simple, 03 3000 8858, or you can also go to the website to ask for help. And the third one is the Social Welfare Department or Jabatan Kebajikan Masyarakat. The HQ number is 03 8000 8000. It is very simple for you to memorize. So at this moment, I want every one of you here in the seminar to memorize this number. Okay, so next slide. So in the state of that distress, what are the other things that the victim can do? So first of all, like I have said before, the victim can contact NGOs, or they can also seek professional advice from other people, from any institution that they can think of. They can also go to the one-stop crisis center at the government hospital. This is a very common place for a victim of abuse to go and get some help at the hospital. And this is a place that we as a future doctor will be commonly present there. And also the victim can obtain an emergency protection order from the Jabatan Kebajikan Masyarakat, and this is an order that is very very useful if a victim is being abused. And of course the victim can lodge a police report, and they can apply for interim protection order. This is quite similar to the emergency protection order, which they can get protection from the authority against the perpetrator. And also if the victims are being clueless, if the victim doesn't know what she or he can do about the violence, she or he is hesitated to report, to directly report to the authority, because the victim still love his or her partner, then the victim can also tell their trusted family members. This is very important for us also. If you have near family members and we know that there is a domestic violence that happen in that family, it is our responsibility to look what is happening in their household. This is not what most people call as menjaga tepikan orang. This is not something like that. This is something serious, and that is why there are also multiple responsible that near family members have. So I will explain more in the next slide. So for near family members, it is important for us to be a good listener to the victim and also to the perpetrator also. Sometimes the perpetrator or the abuser, maybe they are not, they doesn't really want to do that violence. Maybe because they have, they are under stress. Maybe because they have multiple problems that push them past their limits and make them commit. This is also important for us as near family members to be a good listener. We need to listen to their problems, and then we need to give them advice to both the victims and perpetrator. Of course, this is only when the is still considered under control, or it is at a mild stage. However, if the violence is already past the limit, such as there is an injuries that occur to the victim, then the near family members can help the victim to lodge a police report. As I mentioned before, the victims always hesitated to lodge a police report. This is because of their feelings toward their partner. However, thinking rationally. That is why it is our responsibility as a near family members. If our near family members are being the victim, we need to convince them, and we need to help them to lodge a police report. This is for their benefit also. And as a family members also, we if we are going to become parents, we need to educate our children,
that violence is wrong. It is never right. Violence is never an answer. Violence is not something that is rational to do. We need to kind of brainwash our children with this truth, because violence will only lead to bad things that have been presented by Brother Sheikh before. And next slide. Other than what the victims and also the near family members can do, there are also many other parties that can help in preventing and solving the domestic violence from occurring, such as from the authorities, such as the police department. They can take action towards the abuser. They can also educate the society about what and everything of domestic violence. Sometimes there are also people who are not very educated. They didn't know that they are being abused. They didn't know that they have legal power towards the abuser, that the abuser are wrong and can be put under the law. And this is also the responsibility for the authorities to create more awareness towards the society. And also there are also in our age there are many artists, influencers, and also media that play major roles in this situation, because we are living in a digital era, and we watch this media every day, and this will influence our way of thinking. That is why artists, influencers, and also media, they need to advocate and educate others in our society about this domestic violence. This is what we are currently doing right now in this seminar. We want to create awareness, because we want to prevent and also solve any potential domestic violence that might occur in our circle. And the media can also create awareness program and also advertisement. This is something that is very rational to do, because this is very rational and significant to do, because we have seen many evidence of the power of the and this is something the media should push forward. And I think that is the that can be done. However, if I put them all in the slide, it will become much more lengthy. So I will proceed with the quiz, with a short quiz before I pass to the next presenter. So next slide. So I think I would like to call upon from the audience. I will call for a specific name. Let's see who I will call. Brother Shazwan Faris, are you there?
Yes, MANAF.
Okay, so are you ready for the question?
Sure.
Okay, so the question sounds that in a case of emergency, let's say there is a woman who is being abused by her husband. What can she do to cope with that state of distress? Can you give your answer?
I think first maybe she can get help from the social welfare department and other than that she might also call the hotline of NGOs that are related to women's aid organization. And the last thing that she can do, maybe she can also at least call 999 for help. So I think that is my answer.
Wow, very
Is
impressive.
it true? Is it correct, Manaf?
Yes, excellent. It seems that you are paying a lot. So, thank you, Brother Shazwan. So,
Thank you.
from what Brother Shazwan, okay. So, from what Brother Shazwan has mentioned before, he said that the woman can call a hotline number of women's AIDS organization. So, just now I have asked all of you to memorize the hotline number for the women's AIDS organization. So, I would like to call upon I think Sister Farah Shazwani, are you here?
Yes.
Okay, can you can you recall back what is the hotline number for the women's aid organization that the women
If
call?
if I'm not mistaken, the number is 03-3000-8858, right?
Yes, very true. Congratulations, sister.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for the audience who is answering the question. But before I pass to the next presenter, I would like to reiterate that domestic violence is not something that only happens to women. It can also happen to men. The reason why the reason why we tend to see more cases that related to women is because most of the domestic violence case against men seems like they are silenced, and maybe there is something that is not as hot as the domestic violence against women. However, the awareness are still need to be created because violence is violence. It is not something that is right. So with that, I will pass to the next presenter, Sister. I will pass to the next presenter to continue with the Islamic perspective of domestic violence.
Okay, thank you, Brother Mana, for the very detailed explanation on the preventions and solutions of domestic violence. So now we will look at what Islam has said about domestic violence. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, in one hadith narrated by Aisyah radhiyallahu anha, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "The best of you is the best to his wives, and I am the best of you to my wives." So, as a totality of our faith, it is a must for us to model after our Prophet, and we were told time and time again by each of Prophet's wives, each of his companions, that never did the Prophet ever raise his hands in anger or in battle except when ordered by Allah. So never did he strike anyone, never did he abuse anyone or raise voice at anyone with any level of harshness or intimidation. And in fact, there were moments in his life where he was furious at anyone who stepped out of their line in their conduct with their spouses. So there is one story reported in the hadith of Salamah, where a woman came and showed her bruised shoulder to the wife of Prophet. And Salamah immediately went to Prophet and said, "O Messenger of Allah, what has happened to this man who struck his wife as if she is an animal in the pasture?" And the Prophet ordered Bilal to azan. It is actually not the time of prayer, but the Prophet says, "Summon everyone." So they all came to the mosque, and he stood on his pulpit and he said, "It has reached me that there is someone who done this to his spouse, and there could never be from the best of us, there could never be from my community." So that was such a strong words from the Prophet of Allah, and that shows how strongly domestic violence is unacceptable in Islam. Okay, next slide. So to conclude our seminar today, we have seen that domestic violence can be defined as a pattern of behavior that is used to gain or maintain power and control over an intimate partner. And domestic violence is not only limited to physical, but also includes sexual, emotional, and financial abuses. It can happen due to jealousy, substance abuse, financial issue, low self-esteem, mental illness, and previous history of violence. So it is very important for us to break the violence chain because it left a huge impact on the victims, on the family, the children, and the whole community. Okay, next slide. So keep in mind that domestic violence can affect anyone in the society. Everyone is a potential perpetrator, everyone is a potential victim. So as a member of the society and as a future medical doctor, we must firstly speak out against the violence. Let the society know that domestic violence is not a private or family matter. It is a crime and it needs to be solved. Other things that we can do is offer help and support. So if someone we know is the victims, express our concern, allow them to speak, and let them know that we believe what they are telling us. Let them know that no one deserves to be hurt and domestic violence is not their fault. And other than that, we can provide resources to the victims, encourage them to reach out to community resources like Brother Manaf has mentioned before, connect them with crisis hotlines, support groups, safe shelters, mental health services, or anything else that they need. And lastly, there is no one-size-fits-all solution for domestic violence, but speaking out against the violence do make changes. So all of us as family members, as neighbors, co-workers, friends, children must be the part of the solution. So with that, we have done with our first part of our seminar. Next, I hand over the floor to Sister Anisha to continue with the next part. Please welcome.
Alhamdulillah, we have come to the last part of our seminar, which is Q&A session. The question that we are going to answer after this are the questions that we took from the questionnaire from Google Docs that we have posted in our WhatsApp group. So, okay, next slide. So the first question is the most popular question. Why some people tend to stay and live with the abuser even if they are suffering? So I will answer to this question. Basically, some people, the victims, tend to stay with the abuser even they are suffering due to some reasons. The first one is maybe because they are too scared that if they make a police report, their relationship will come to an end. They want the abuse to, but not the relationship, because they still have special feelings towards their partner. This is often occur in our society. Other than that, the victims may also afraid that if they leave, the abuser may get more aggressive, then the victim's life will be at risk. If they leave the abuser and stay at their parents' house, then not only their life is at risk, but her family's life is also at risk. So these are some of the reasons why the victims stay with the abuser even if they are suffering, because of feelings, because of love, their feelings toward their partner, and because of the scare of the abuser will get aggressive and will risk their life and their family's member. So, okay, let's move on to the next question. The next question is it possible for abuser to change? So, please welcome Sister Husna to answer this question.
Okay, thank you, Sister Anisha. So the question is it possible for the abuser to change? So first of all, in my opinion, I think it is possible for the abuser to change, but they must first make the choice to change their behavior. It's not something that easy to done for the abusive partner to stop choosing abusive behavior. It requires a serious commitment to change, because once the abuser has had all the power in the relationship, it's difficult to change to a healthy relationship where each partner have equal respect and power. But I do not say it is impossible. It is possible, but the abuser itself need to really want to change, because it's not like simply, okay, today he abused the wife and then the next morning he be a good husband. It's not something easy as that. So it's really need big commitments, and the husband really need to have a right intention that really want to change. So it depends on the abuser itself. So I think that I answered the questions. So I pass to the Sister Anisha back.
Okay, thank you, Sister. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Punitive measures be taken towards the perpetrator So I think this question will be answered by Brother Manaf.
Okay, thank you, Sister Anisha. So this question, should punitive measures be taken towards the perpetrator? This is quite the question regarding the solution of domestic violence. So what is punitive measures? So punitive measures is like the measures that is in the concept of punishments uh, towards the abuser. So, should the abuser of the domestic violence be punished uh, by the law? So, I think first of all, I'm not a crime specialist. I'm not really. I didn't really know about this kind of question, but I think based on my reading, I have read that there is some research done in the USA that regarding the domestic violence, whether the police department should arrest the abuser or just go to the house of the abuser and just give them advice when there is a report that done by the partners. So, according to the research, it is said that when the police arrest the abuser and take them to the lockup, when compared to the just giving them advices, it is shown that arresting them have lowered the number of the domestic violence cases. So I think this is something that plays with the psychology as well, because when the abuser, they are threatened by something such as law, that they might be fined or they might be go into jail. So they might stop themselves from being violent towards the partner. However, there are too many variables that can change how the abuser to behave. So I think for this question, it needs much more discussion, and also, and of course, it need to Islamic perspective needs to be also included into this discussion, because we want the discussion to be more holistic. And I think, based on my opinion, punitive measures should be taken to the perpetrator. However, it needs strict condition. So I think that is my answer towards this question. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Manaf. We shall continue with the next question. The question is there any way to spot the perpetrators? Do they show any potential warning signs? So, Sister Hana, please welcome.
Okay, thank you, Sister Anisha. So actually, there is no specific way to spot the perpetrators in the crowd, but I have made some reading, and what I can conclude is that the perpetrators, mostly, they share some common characteristics, like they insist on moving on quickly into a relationship, and they can be very charming and may seem too good to be true, and they are extremely jealous or controlling, and they don't take responsibility for their actions, and they always blame others for everything. And then they criticize their partners, and they often put their partner down, and their words and actions do not match. So, but also important for us to remember that domestic violence is a pattern of power and control. So, if it is just one of what I have said before, it may not be indicative of abuse. But if we spot a pattern of behavior, then we might have to be careful. So I think that's all from my opinion. I pass back to Sister Anisha.
Thank you, Sister Hana, for the great explanation. Okay, last question. Some victims believe that in Islamic teachings, they have to respect their spouse by not telling the violence to others. Is that true? So I welcome Brother Sheikh to answer this question.
Thank you to Sister Anisha. So for this question, it is absolutely false opinion, because religion is no excuse for domestic violence, and using of holy scriptures to justify domestic violence is unacceptable. Yes, Islam emphasizes on a respectful relationships between spouse by not telling our spouse weaknesses to others. But bear in mind, Allah Ta'ala doesn't want us to stay in harmful situation. Based on the Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter number 2, verse 195, Allah said, "A'udzubillahi minasyaitonirrajim, wala tulqu biaydikum ila tahlukah," which means, and let not your own hands throw yourself into destruction. Thus, we need to seek help and tell your problem to the trusted entities if we are among the victims of domestic violence, to ensure that we can live in a peaceful life with our family. I think and I hope this will answer this question. So I think we have gone through the last question, and that's all from us. And I will invite our supervisor and also our assessors to make some comments to our presentation. Please welcome.
Assalamualaikum. Why don't we invite Prof Nazneen or Prof Abdul Salam? I just saw Prof Abdul Salam left the group, probably accidentally. Prof Nazneen, would you like to say a few words to our dear students? Yep.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. You know, as usual, when we attend the seminar session, it's always that we are the one who would learn more, you know. I mean, we learn new things, yeah, by attending and listening to your presentation. And what I like about your presentation, I mean, apart from all the facts that you know, I get to learn, is that it's short and sweet. Yeah. So I think it's so important that you make your presentation succinct, concise, in order for you to get the points across. Yeah. It shouldn't be lengthy, and I think that the presenters are confident. Yeah. And with all the difficulties that you have, you know, being away from, from your friends and trying to prepare for the seminar. So I think, you know, with good supervision from Dr. ASSRIN, so the outcome is Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, thank you Prof for your very kind words. Yeah, Prof Abdul Salam. You left for a while.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullah. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Right. So first of all, let me congratulate all the 5 presenters and their supervisor, Dr. AZZRIN, for bringing up a very time-demanding and important issue of life through this student seminar. I really appreciate the selection of this topic. And it's no wonder that in every society, every country, every ethnicity, this is a big issue. Although the rate of incidence and prevalence may vary, and but this is a very important issue that affects you know, life many a times. So as you have mentioned, most of the important risk factors or the propositions that might play a role in domestic violence. And in most of the society, most of the situation is the women who are the victims. Although with the women empowerment and changing in the society and also other factors, also there are sporadic incidents of male being victim as well. So I think it's time to also have some hotline for the males to seek help if they at all require for every, you know, society, because who knows, because with the increasing empowerment of the female, and their dominant role in the, how society everywhere, probably the change of picture is not unexpected. You have covered most of the things nicely, and I also appreciate that it's very succinct and appropriate for the preparation, and most of the things you have covered. But to my mind, I want to say that this mental illness is a very important issue, apart from other agendas that you have mentioned, to become perpetrator for this domestic violence. So for that reason, if somebody is labeled as having some mental problem, probably he or she needs psychiatric consultation, apart from simply counseling or understanding or reconciliation or whatever. So definitive role can be played by the psychiatrist if it is required. And also we know that if as a believer we can follow the dictates of Quran and Sunnah in the Islamic life, probably you can avoid many things, including the domestic violence, as you have mentioned nicely, some Quranic verse and hadith, which actually give us guidance. But probably our attitude and our probably away from this pathway of Quran and Sunnah has made us to be more involved with this kind of criminal and behavioral activities which are not accepted in every society. So this is really should be the the humble request to all of us, especially among the believers, that you try to be the good Muslim so that you can avoid this type of situations, inshallah. And yes, the presentation as a whole is very attractive, with the videos, then quiz after every presenter's presentation. Really, I enjoyed, learned a lot from your seminar topic and your info that you have gathered. And this is usual for the virtual life nowadays, that sometimes internet connectivity is lost. Happened to me as well, and you also. And regarding the voice quality and sound, I was a bit facing difficulty with MANAF, but others' voice was all right. So okay, this is part of life with the virtual life, and let us pray and hope that inshallah soon we look forward to come back to our face-to-face life if possible, because already 1 year has passed. The year one, we will be in second year soon, but we have not seen it yet. Right, so the most victim for the domestic violence, apart from the victim husband or wife itself, the children around. So that we must not forget. And during this COVID situation, as you have mentioned justifiably, the loss of job, financial insecurity, it has actually probably increased this incidence of this violence at the domestic, not in Malaysia, everywhere. So we really need to find out how quickly we can get rid of this COVID pandemic situation and can come back to our normal life. So really, Malaysian government should increase this vaccination program, because that is only the potential way to come out, as WHO said, and some country already has got the benefit. Just today, I have noticed one of my friends in US, they have come back to their office in the normal life after 15 months, because US already probably has attained that situation and level to come back to the normal life. So we also look forward that very soon, Malaysia will also take that example to bring back us to our normal life, so that we can minimize not only domestic violence, but other issues as well. Thank you very much, all the presenters from year one, for your nice and elegant presentation. I really appreciate, including Dr. AZZRIN as a supervisor. Thank you so much.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much, our professor, Prof. Abdul Salam, Prof. Naznin. Of course, yeah, for your kind words and for spending time with us. I have nothing much to say, but I would like to say congratulations to all 5 of you, Hana, Husna, Anisha, Sheikh and Manaf, because initially we were a bit worried, we were running short of time, but as always, medical students have always been brilliant, and I'm so honored and so lucky to be to have all of you to present this topic. That's something that I really wish all of us can just have. I spend some time listening, and I think it's quite serious, especially in the afternoon. But you guys did very well. Well done. Itu saja. Okay. I'm very proud of all of you. Hopefully we'll see you soon, inshallah. Thank you again, professors. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you, Prof and doctors.